Hey Maker, I'm Donna from Stain Splinters, and today we're gonna make my Minnie Mouse badge reel, one of my biggest sellers in my shop. So let's get to making it. Okay, so I start with a mold, and I have two different sizes. So I sell either the large or the mini, mini. Okay, so when I demold these, I get something that looks like that. And so this is the one that we're gonna be working on today, my leopard print. I do like to give it a little bit of a sand. I want something for my epoxy to stick to. I want it to be able to adhere well and not pop off, because I have had UV resin pop off from epoxy. So in order to do that, I'm gonna take my sanding block and I'm gonna sand it just a little. Like, I just need to scuff it up a little bit. It's really not anything major. I'm not trying to, you know, make marks or anything. I just want it to not be so shiny. You can see that definitely now it's not. And then I take just a paper towel with some alcohol and my paper towel. I'm gonna put some just a little bit just to wipe off any of that residue from sanding. Okay. And it's good for now. I'm gonna also sand my bow, because as you saw with the bow, it comes from the same place. I do the molds at the same time. So I'm gonna sand my bow down a little bit also. Okay, so I've sanded my mouse head just a little bit, just to, like I said, scuff it up a little bit. And bow, I wish you could see how pretty this red glitter is. For the red glitter, I use the Glitter Chimps Burning Desire. It is a gorgeous red glitter. It is a little hard to see in this light, but it really does shine. And it's like the perfect shade of red, like classic, just red. For the mini head, I use Cleopatra from Peachy Olive Glitters. So Cleopatra, Burning Desire, glitter, the glitter guy, not the glitter chimp, glitter guy, and Peachy Olive. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is, this one's gonna have a name. It is personalized, this is an order. So the first thing I'm gonna do is finish weeding. I've weeded the offset, and I've weeded my leopard. For the leopard print, what I did was I just took a leopard print that I had on my silhouette. It was it was free with Silhouette, or it was part of one of my, you know, my membership with them. And so I got that and I sized it down to the mini head. The mini head, because it's a mold, I don't have like a specific size. It's not like when you get it blank and it has like the file that goes with it. I just kind of took a picture of it, because the Silhouette has that mat where you could put it on there and you could take a picture of it and then upload it to your computer. And so I did that to get the exact measurements. And it's still a little off, because I think every time when you're doing something with a mold, they do come out a little bit different each time. So it is a little bit off, but I just trim the edges, which you'll see here when I do that in that step. So we're gonna just weed these little pieces out. Then I'm gonna take my transfer, and I don't get transfer tape. Like, this is that Duck Easy Line shelf liner. So we get this at Walmart. It's not any kind of fancy transfer tape that I use. I use way too much. I go through it. I don't like reusing transfer tape because it doesn't stick the right way, especially with this particular, with my regular vinyls, it's fine. But when I'm using a metallic, it's really not a good situation when I'm trying to reuse vinyl. It just never seems to work for me. So I don't even try it anymore. Certain metallic vinyls that I have, I actually have to use the Cricut hard, you know, the heavy one, the one that picks up heavy materials, because those this doesn't actually pick up every single thing. So I still do have some Cricut vinyl or Cricut transfer tape, but for the most part, this is my go-to, and I very rarely have to pull out that other transfer tape, the heavy duty transfer tape. So I'm just using my finger, which I shouldn't. I should use my burnishing tool. Because again, this is a thicker metallic, so it's going to want to stay on there if I don't do it right. Now I line it up. I'm lining up the L, because really you could pick any letter, line it up. As long as one letter lines up, then they should all be good to go. And I just did that because that was the one I could see at this angle. And we're stuck, so we're gonna do that. This way she's done. That doesn't go yet. Right now what we're gonna do is get this. So we're gonna transfer the leopard spots onto the mouse head. Then we're going to do and we're also gonna put the bow on. And then we're gonna do a partial coat of UV resin, just so that when I put my name decal down, it doesn't have bumps in it. Because if I just put my name decal over top of those, then my vinyl would be lumpy, and you can see that through the resin. So I don't do it that way. I have to do a little, you'll see what I'm talking about once I do it here. But I just make it flat. I give it a nice soft surface, a nice flat surface to work off of. And I just cut that and put it aside, and I shouldn't have. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, and so I don't waste any tape, I'm going to cut it shorter. Peel it back. My dogs are chewing on their bones. You might hear them in the background. We have 2 puppies and then a 5-year-old dog. So there's a lot of dogs going on here. And then we have our little tiny dog who never comes out of the laundry room. She lives in there. But the puppies are always into something, so you're definitely gonna hear them at some point. Okay, so that's on. And then I'm gonna put that up. Remove the backing. And now lining it up, I don't get too like hung up on my lining it up. I do my best. Sometimes look at it, I already touched it and got my finger on one of those prints, those leopard spots. So I will work on one part at a time. And so that lined up beautifully. So I'm gonna burnish that down with just my finger, and then remove this. And then that little spot we're gonna stick on. And now what I should do is replace the backing while I'm doing this, so that, which I do usually, so that pieces don't go where I don't want them to go. So I just did that. I just put the backing back over top of the ones that I don't want to lay down right now while I'm doing this. So now I'm going to just do another part, and I'm only gonna do that much. So I do it in sort of sections because it's not super perfect, and I don't want it to be crooked or have it, you know, have it come out funky. And the less cutting around the edges I have to do, the better, because honestly, sometimes I don't do a very good job, and then I have stuff sticking out, and it just makes my resin not sit as pretty, you know? And I have to clean more stuff up, and then it just takes time, and it just makes it a lot harder. And at times I even have to like redo the whole thing because there's stuff hanging, you know, stuff that was hanging over it, or it didn't sit right. So I definitely try to make sure that doesn't happen. This one, see that's hanging over just a bit. There's a couple pieces here and over there. I don't know how well you could see all that, but there is gonna be cutting, and there always is cutting. It's not that I'm trying to make it completely no cutting. It's just the less the better. Okay, so see, I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to have it match every time we do this. I am just getting them on there, you know, and obviously I want to keep them looking nice. I'm going to remove this one because it sits where the bow is anyway, and it was covering up that, and I just didn't want to have any layers that are unnecessary, you know, to have my epoxy not sit right, or my resin not sit right once I put it down. I'm going to take this little piece here and stick it up there on that ear. I feel like I do need to put something right there. I think it's gonna be what's on my finger. And I save all my little pieces. It seems silly because they're so little and it seems like, oh my, it's not even a whole thing. But for every single order that I send out, I do like a little tchotchke, like a little, like this, something small. So, you know, something just extra resin that I poured out into a mold. So, and then I put the 3M on the back of it, and that's their little gift, you know. So everyone who orders from me gets a little gift. So sometimes it's plain like this, but if I'm using a finer cut glitter, then I will add, you know, something on top of it. So I might do like a little honeybee with the little saying, be kind, or I might do a leopard print just over top of the whole thing, just sort of like this with nothing else, just leopard print over the heart. It's usually a heart. Sometimes it's a circle, but it just depends on what I have, because, you know, it's their freebie. I'm not gonna spend too much time going crazy on it, but you know, I have extra resin, extra epoxy all the time when I'm doing my pours. So I might as well just pour them out into a mold, and then what am I gonna do with them? Have them sit here and take up space? You know, that's so silly. So for me, it's a win-win. My customers get a little treat and I don't have to waste any epoxy. So it does take a minute because I will finish them off. So it does take time, you know, when I'm doing it, but to me, it's worth it for them, you know, for them to have that experience and to get like a really fun package in the mail that they didn't expect, something a little extra. So I'm just gonna stick that there. And now it's time to trim. So I take my scissors, they're very big. Look, see, I've been trimming, so I have stuff on them. I turn it over so I could see. And now I add the bow. I am not a fan of glue. I cannot use glue. It gets stuck on me. It just does not do well for me. I use it once and it clogs up and then I can never use it again, and it's super frustrating. And so for me, I have only found that this particular glue, this Loctite Professional Liquid, is the only glue that I will use. And I swear by it. It's super sticky, nothing ever falls off, I never have issues. I know a lot of people like to use that 6000, that E6000. Used it and I don't love it. I don't love how you don't have any control over it, and what I'm gluing is like really small. So I don't need a huge, you know, amount of glue. I just need a little tiny bit. And so this is perfect for me, especially for a project like this. Make sure my bow is in good shape before I do this. So I'm cleaning up the corners a little bit from a little bit of resin. of epoxy from when I made it. Get that off. Okay, my bow looks good. Just a tiny little bit and attach. I hold it for a second. I usually don't even have to hold it that long because see, look, it's glued, it's done. The glue is not dry, so we're not gonna touch it because that mistake has happened before also. And let me tell you, if it does happen to you, alcohol, rubbing alcohol, I always have my 91% alcohol like within reach. I have my whole big container, and then I also have my little easier to access little bottle. Alcohol, you go through so much alcohol. If you haven't done this before and you're starting to do this now, it is a thing. You're just gonna buy it, just buy it by the bulk because you're gonna go through it. I probably go through two or three of these a week. And I do badge reels and tumblers. So, you know, I do a lot. I mean, I am doing a lot of these every week. So I don't know if that's part of why, or maybe I just am an excess user, which, you know, it is what it is. I use it. I clean everything up with it. All my tools get cleaned with alcohol. My table I clean off with alcohol, my workspace. And then I'm using it to clean my things after, you know, any resin piece that I've made or epoxy piece that I've made, it gets cleaned with the alcohol. So yeah, it's a lot of alcohol. And then always replace your cap because it helps to keep it from getting stuck in there. But I have even forgotten to put the cap back on and it doesn't clog up, which I love, love, love about this glue. Seriously, this is the best glue. Get this glue if you're gluing things like this. It's awesome. Okay, so for our next step, what we're gonna do, my gloves come on for this piece, this part. Before I move into finishing her, you know, putting her name on it, I am going to do that layer, that small layer, like I said. So gloves come on, mask comes on. I won't put it on right now because I'm talking to you guys, but normally be safe, always be safe. This is not good for you, breathing it in. You will feel it. It will make you, if you do it long enough, you will not feel good about it. You know, you won't feel good. I always use Counterculture DIY. CC DIY has their resin. Their UV resin is fantastic. It is my favorite, but I'm allergic to it. So I don't know how you are, if you're sensitive to stuff like this. I mean, I think everybody's kind of sensitive to stuff like this, but I was getting rashes. It was horrible. So I discontinued using it. Now I strictly use my resin rockers. Never have an issue with resin rockers as far as, like I said, with the rashes or with feeling as bad. It doesn't make me feel bad, just like if I'm not using, it does have a strong odor, but they all have a strong odor. So yeah, so always be safe. Use your protective gear. Definitely the gloves, always super important. Cleaning up anything off your hands. Honestly, if I get anything on my hands, straight to the sink. And I use a Brillo to get it off, which may not be the best. I don't know. I don't know if it's like, I'm not a doctor or something, but it feels like it gets my hands clean. And I always wonder if if it's, the abrasiveness is actually like making kind of holes in my skin and letting the epoxy get in there, but I don't think so. It really does feel so much better after I've Brillo padded, you know, if I have anything on me. And I've tried regular soap, and I've tried like exfoliant type soaps, and they just don't do the job. So the Brillo pad is hole in it. So I'm going to fill that hole with UV and with some glitter. So I'm gonna take some Burning Desire and I'm gonna get a little piece of tape. A lot of people use mixing cups, which I probably should, but I am not going to. I'm going to use my tape. And also what I'll use, so like once I use this back of my transfer tape, I'll use that to mix epoxy when it's big enough to mix my UV resin. And it's just because I don't need a huge space. In fact, we'll use that right now. I don't need a huge space. I need a tiny drop of UV resin for that bow. So I'm just gonna put my little tiny drop And I do my drop first because sometimes the air comes out of the tube here. And when that happens, it blows my glitter. You know, it makes the glitter kind of fall, like fly around. So instead I put my resin, my epoxy and my resin down first, and then I put my glitter next to it. I don't put it in it. I put it next to it because I want control over how much glitter is going in to the resin. Because if it's too much, it's not gonna work. And if it's not enough, then I'm not gonna get the color I want. So see how I'm like dragging it away from the pile because it kind of got mixed up. And that is really all I need because this is a tiny, tiny little hole. So I'm gonna fix that because I don't wanna send somebody the cutest badge roll ever and have them have a hole in the ear because it's just not cool. And you can totally see that even after epoxying or putting, you know, covering it with the UV resin. So I think that's okay. And it's gonna be bumpy because I didn't do the whole entire bow. I just covered that hole. So it's okay that it's bumpy for me right now because I am gonna cover the whole thing again at the end. Like after I put the name on, I will put UV all over the whole entire bow, and the whole entire head, including the bow. So to make it all kind of uniform, I'm gonna put this to the side. Wipe off any extra good glitter, clean my tool. And I don't, a lot of people, like if they're doing blanks or something small like this, they tape it to like a piece of cardboard or a Dixie cup or something so that they can use it or maneuver it a little bit better. I don't do any of that. I have a wooden block. So I don't know what you guys think of my wooden block, but I use my wooden block because I can maneuver it around. I can look at it from different angles. I could lift it. It gives me a little bit of working space. It doesn't get knocked over easily because a lot of the cups I was trying weren't tall enough because, you know, my lamp is not super tall. So I've had to lift my lamp up before for items, you know, that I'm trying to put UV resin on that were, you know, wouldn't fit underneath in there. So I'd have to use my other wooden 2x4s. Okay, so I use my wooden block. I use my wooden block. I'm gonna put my UV resin on top, just on the bottom here, not on top, just on this area to give myself a flat surface so that when I put my name on, it sits nice and doesn't have any bumps or weird lumps happening. So I'm gonna turn it sideways because that's better for me. I'm gonna clean off my thing, put that down for now. And I don't need a lot. I did a little bit of a squirt. So that's about it. I'm gonna take my tool. I'm gonna clean it again because it feels like I got goo in it or something. So I'm rinsing it off, just rubbing it off with my alcohol paper towel. And then I'm gonna sort of spread. This UV is self-leveling, but because I am impatient, I do kind of spread it out myself and don't wait for it to handle it itself there. And if you could see, it's still kind of bumpy. So I'm gonna give it a second to let it level out the rest of the way. I'm gonna hit it with my torch. So that softens it up, makes it kind of flatten out better for me. And see, now it's perfect. Now it's like a glass surface. And Alicia's name is a little bit long, so I'm gonna make sure I get it kind of to the edge. Another second to level. It doesn't take a long time. Like, it really doesn't, especially after you hit it with the torch. It kind of just does its own thing and it is ready to go. So it's gonna sit under there. I don't do it twice. 2 rounds of 120 seconds, and then it should be good. It doesn't have to be absolutely hard as a rock, done, ready to ship, done. It just needs to be nice and hard for the name to go on, because it's gonna go back under the UV light after I put the rest of the epoxy or the resin over top of it, which we're doing here in a second. Normally what I would do is I would start my next name, you know, my next thing. So while I'm sitting here, I think I am gonna, because my Happy Face badge rolls are another big seller. So I think I'm gonna just start one of those while we're waiting. So for my Happy Face badge rolls, it's the same situation. I print out my Happy Faces on black vinyl. This is just regular black vinyl, nothing super special. I just hate doing vinyl in gloves because it sticks to my hands, but I don't want to take my gloves off because I'm doing resin. So we're gonna make it work right now. See what happens. My pokey, my pointer, my top pointer. I'm gonna set my second 120 seconds because it went off. Try not to touch it because it'll stick to my gloves and rip them. Transfer tape. Burnish it down to get it stuck to the tape. And transfer tape with gloves on. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I have a lot of orders to finish. So I can't sit here and not have something else cooking while that is getting set up. So try to burnish real good so that I know it is down, so no epoxy, no resin gets underneath that vinyl. So here's something that happens when you're doing UV resin. That light's right there. I'm working right here. If I get my bottle of resin and I start putting it on here, what's gonna happen is this light is gonna cure that resin before I even finish putting all of it on there. So I will lift it up and pull it away from that light and put it on my fingers and just hold it. And again, if I had taken the mini head off of my little block, my wooden block, then I would have done this on top of the wooden block and held the wooden block up here. And I only have the one wooden block because this isn't very big. You know, my light isn't very big, so 2 can't fit under there. But I have a new light coming that's 268 watts, and it's supposed to make it crazy fast for curing UV resin. So fingers crossed that that does, because like I said, very impatient and don't like waiting for you know, 4 or 5 sessions of UV resin curing time when I'm sitting here. And I've also noticed that the more you have under your light, the slower the cure time. So when I have a whole bunch of pieces under there, it does take forever, and I have to keep pushing the button and pushing the button and, you know, turning it back on. And then, so having multiple lamps at this point, I'm kind of there where I am gonna need like at least 3. I have 2 right now, at least 3, so that I can just keep the momentum going, you know? And for these, I get a little bit, I don't like it to bunch up on the edges. So what I'm doing is I'm sort of helping it along. You don't want to push it over. You don't want it to like overflow or go across, you know, over that side, because if it does, then there's no stopping it. Now it's just gonna flow all the way down and you're gonna have problems and the back is gonna get all messed up. But this resin, this UV resin is so thick, which I love about it, that you can kind of maneuver it and it's not gonna just fall on its own. Like, it's really not. It is a self-leveling resin, so it's gonna try to stay all together, you know. But see, I have my little, I don't like the crunchy edges, so I'm gonna take just a tiny bit and I am going to do those edges just a bit, and that's how I do it. I get the middle and then I just hit it with a little bit around the edge and then clean it up with my thing, my silicone tool here. Which again looks dirty to me. I have to clean it again. And I'm trying to hold it as straight as possible, because if you know, if I do hold it at an angle, it's gonna spill over. So, and then I hold it to the light and I kind of try to see that all my edges are covered and that my resin goes all the way to those edges. And I do see bubbles in there, which are gonna just right now be fixed with a little quick hit with the torch. Just super fast hit. You do not need a lot of heat on these pieces. They're so small. I'm seeing a little bit of a pinching here. Pinching, curdling, I don't know what you call it. So that's what I'm fixing. Okay, so that's done. I'm gonna put my tool down. Now I'm gonna swap them out. I'm gonna take out my mini head, slide that, and I'm gonna turn my lamp so that the light is not directly on me. And I hit it for 120 seconds. Now I'm ready to put my name. I was gonna put some resin over top of her without putting a name on her. Okay, so we're gonna pull her off. Try to get this straight. I line up, I try to look at the name and find the center letter. And so for this one, I think the center is between this E and the C, you know, right there. So I'm gonna try to line the E and the C up with the middle of the bow. So that's about right. Burnish it down. And again, I don't get too crazy in particular. I'm not busting out like any kind of measuring tool and checking, you know, I don't do that. I just do my best to get it as straight as possible, and I do my best to get it as centered as possible. And sometimes I do have to do it twice, but for the most part, it comes out like that. Like, it's good. So now is my coat for over top of the whole thing. And again, I kind of just try not to overdo it, because it really is easy to be like, I need to fill all the spaces. You don't need to fill all the spaces. No, you don't. You just need to get enough on there that you can spread it evenly around. Because if you, right here where the ear meets, you know, where the ear indents, there's a spot where it likes to pool. So you gotta be very careful around that area. So again, I'm just kind of helping it out. I will add more. I just like to get a good little base started so that I know how much more I need, because I have put way too much before and it's just a disaster. Once it gets over that edge, I don't use anything on the back. Obviously you see that I don't tape off. Sometimes I tape off, but I usually don't tape off. Like, my initial thing is not to tape off the back. I do too many of these. Like, if I was stopping for every single one to tape off or to add latex, which I know a lot of people do for their molds and their, you know, their acrylic blanks. They'll add latex to the back. I don't do any of that because it's just, it takes more time. And honestly, when I add latex, I feel like I get harsh lines that are sharp. They're really sharp. And so I don't really want to deal with that because I've done it and then I have to sand it down and then it's dull from having sanded it. And so then I have to do the back again and it just doesn't work for me. So it might work for you. And if it does, that's fantastic. I just have not figured out how to make it worthwhile. So I just don't. I just do me. Just do what works for me, which is what you should do. Okay. A little bit there. Kind of come in here around the edge. Trim it out. Make sure those edges are not dry. And now I'm not really squeezing out any. I'm kind of just using this to give it a little bit of, I don't know, bulb, letting it bulb out on the edges to give it that nice, clean, round finish. And again, I don't want to go over for sure, but I definitely don't want any dry spots because that is not a cute look. I think we're good. But again, this is why I lifted her up. I do see dry spots, so that's what you see me fixing right now, is whatever I see in the light that doesn't look wet. Really pay attention to those edges. The middle's gonna work itself out because it is self-leveling and because I started in the middle with my resin when I poured it. So the middle's gonna be just fine, but look at, oh, I missed a big spot on the bow. So we are gonna fix that. This side over here. Resin, look, see, I'm not loving this corner here. And it's because I didn't trim good enough. I didn't trim my black spots well enough. So I'm getting a little bit of pinchy corners. I don't know how to explain them. Like, what are they? Where it kind of bunches up, you know? The bunchy edges. I hate those. It's not a good way to go. So I try really hard to get rid of them, but this doesn't really want to do it for me today. And again, you know, it's tricky because you don't want to go over for sure. Like, I'd rather have bunchy edges than have it go over. But now we're gonna hit it with this, get rid of any. And when you hit it with your torch, it's gonna thin out that resin. So you wanna get it under the light, because what's gonna happen is if you don't, then it might spill over because it's now, you know, more fluid because it's warmed up. So right after you hit it with that light, you wanna get it right underneath that light and have it curing. And this light, like I said, it's pretty strong. So it starts to cure almost immediately. So it'll firm up enough that it won't pour over if I get it under there right away. I'm gonna do it twice. My happy face is still under there. I'm gonna let him stay there. And then I attach using 3M Velcro. So I'll put a piece of Velcro on here. I'll put a piece of Velcro on my mini head and stick them together. And that is how it goes. I'm still waiting for that. So I'll show you what I do with the Velcro. So she's done. She's finished and ready to ship. And so I've put Velcro on the back of her. So I just take my 3M dual lock, low profile, dual lock, low profile. I'll put the link in the description. And then I cut off a really small piece, not a big piece at all, about that big. And then I cut the corners They fly everywhere. There's probably corners all over my workspace and my shipping area. And then I take this, peel off the back. Again, with gloves on, not the best thing. And then, because I'm doing this for my Mermaid Vibes, I'm using the one with the Mermaid Vibes colors. And yeah, this glove does not do well. Okay. And then you take your two pieces, you match it up. I just try to make it straight so that she's straight. And did you hear that snap? Snaps right on, and you're done. And then this way, if you're a store and you sell these, you can sell them as interchangeable badge reels, and then they can buy just the face from you, so they'll come back, and hopefully you'll have lots of repeat customers, which I do. But they always buy the bottom two because I glitter them, because I make it match. So my people still buy both pieces, but it is something that if they wanted to, they could they could just buy the face, the topper. So, and I'm also going to be doing lanyard badge reels the same way. So I'll do a tutorial on those and how I do that. So I have those, and then I also have the pop sockets. So these can be made into just about anything. The smaller ones are the best for those things. Like this is a smaller version. The one I have under the heat lamp right now is my large. But these the mini ones are much better for the pop socket. Okay, so she is done. And look at that, she came out really good. So I think it was like 4 times that she went on there, under there, with the light. Just like that. And now we are done. And she's ready to go. Okay, so thanks for watching. Keep it, stay on, like and subscribe if this helped you, if you learned something new, or you like what you saw. We're also going to be doing very soon the same sort of idea. So we're going to be doing phone grips and the lanyard retractable badge reels, which I haven't seen anybody do retractable lanyard tutorials. So mine should be one of the first, or if not the first, with the retractable, attaching the retractable piece. So definitely keep an eye out for that. So have a good day. Thanks for watching.